Hey guys, today I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about economy in Star Citizen. So I kind of just made this document with 3.18 right around the corner, 3.19 and 4.0. I feel like economy is more important than ever, and I kind of just wanted to put a little bit of ideas out there about the economy in the game because right now the in-game economy doesn't really exist. So this is just kind of my wish list of things that I think would be good in the game. Kind of starting out, how do you build an economy for a game like Star Citizen? In reality, it's not easy. It's a lot more immersive than a game like EVE Online. And so, how do you really develop an economy for, a game where everything is physicalized, where logistics matter kind of more than any other game would, where things have to rely on the players. And so, kind of their solution for that is Quanta and the Quanta system to make the game 90% driven by the NPCs and roughly 10% by the players. And this has its advantages and disadvantages. The advantage is that the economy will remain stable in the game to allow players to kind of do whatever they want and not really be bottlenecked by resources. The major problem that this presents is that it won't encourage players to fight over resources as much because the NPCs are handling 90% of it. And that's kind of a major problem in a game that everything needs to be important. Right now, kind of nothing is that important. So how do you make things important? How do you enable or create a system where players fight over resources? Well, in my personal opinion, you first have to figure out a way to structure that economy. So this is kind of what my idea is, to restructure the economy in Star Citizen around a more logical system. So to start off with, what I would do is list all of the planets and their populations. Right now in game, a planet like ArchCorp has the same economic value as a planet like Lorville, and that just doesn't make sense because ArchCorp is a city planet and Lorville is just one city. So in my opinion, CIG needs to put more weight on the logistical and resource needs of these planets based on their populations. So kind of what I did here was estimate the population of each planet based on their relative city size. So I compared a city like ArchCorp to New York, and that, gave it a relative population of 300 million because it has, I believe, 20 landing zones. Area 18 is just the most popular one. So, with each landing zone having a population of 10 million or something like that. And with 20 landing zones, I speculated they would need 20 space stations to handle each landing zone. Right now it only has one space station over Area 18. And then I compared Lorville to kind of a larger city. No, I compared Lorville to New York and ArchCorp to Tokyo. I think Tokyo has a population of like 14 million or something like that. And New York has a population of like 8 million. I compared New Babbage to LA, I think, and so on. So Lorville 8 million, New Babbage 6 million, Orson 4 million, Grimhex, it's a space station, so roughly 1,000. And because it is one space station, each of these space stations would have 1,000 people living there. So essentially, 20 space stations means that 20,000 people live in space around ArchCorp. And so these numbers wouldn't be precise, but they would give us a basis for how we're going to build the system. A system built around a locked population or growing population. I mean, you could create an algorithm where the game starts off where ArchCorp has 300 million, and then depending on how the players do, providing resources for the planet, maybe more people might move to ArchCorp, and this population might grow up, and their needs might go up. Okay, so then the next stage is to kind of list the planet resources. Now, in reality, what you would want to do is separate things. So essentially, in this system that I'm proposing, the players would provide 100% of a specific resources, and the NPCs would cover 100% of every other aspect of the economy. So the players are responsible for 100% of the planet's needs, but only certain resources, instead of 10% of all the resources. What that essentially means is that what the players do matters, because if this planet doesn't get a specific resource, the price of that resource is going to fluctuate. And when the price of that resource fluctuates, there are in-game ramifications, like certain item in the game goes up, and essentially being able to do certain missions becomes more difficult. So essentially what I feel like would be good resources to give the players 100% responsibility of is quantanium, food, plastics, silver, gold, platinum, astatine, iron, scrap, aluminum, diamond, liquor, hydrogen, quartz, drugs, helium. Now these are just examples. I'm not CIG, I don't really know what the balance of the game is, but essentially these are just my suggestions, things that I think would be good to give the players 100% responsibility for. And then here I would design locations based around these items and centralize that resource to those locations. Like right now you can go to an outpost and get several things, but I would kind of change that. I would make one location produce one thing. So if you went to a mining outpost, you would only be able to get one specific thing. Like if you went to a quartz quarry, you would only be able to get quartz. You wouldn't be able to get gold and silver and other resources from that location. That does two things. That makes the logistics a little bit more dynamic, and that makes it so that you can make this location more custom, more unique. The physical location would look like a quartz quarry and not just an outpost. And things like a distillery would look like a place that would have liquor, and same thing with diamonds. It would look like how a diamond mine in real life would look like, instead of just kind of a cookie cutter asset. And so kind of this is just what this is kind of outlining, so it helps make the locations a little bit more dynamic, more believable. And it's one of the things that a lot of players bring up is, how are the outposts going to provide physicalized cargo in their current state? I mean, right now, each outpost is just a simple location, no garage. A lot of them have landing pads and places where you could pull out a vehicle, and different storage and habitat buildings, but they're not really designed to distribute large boxes of quartz or, aluminum or platinum or gold or silver. Where would you get these boxes from at the outposts? How would you have NPCs help you? How all of that will work with the current outposts in the game is basically anybody's guess. I'm assuming that CIG are going to have to redo these assets to give players the ability to actually physically maneuver the boxes from the outpost into their cargo ship. But I think for the first iteration of the cargo refactor, I think that CIG is just going to make the cargo magically appear in your ship, but once it's in your ship, it's physically there and you can manipulate it. I think that's what they're going to do for the first iteration, and then the second iteration there's going to be a cargo timer, and then maybe the third iteration they're going to redo the outposts and give you the ability to actually physically take the cargo from this production facility and put it in your ship. But basically what I'm suggesting with this is that they should use that opportunity to really design these locations to be specific towards what commodity they produce and make each location produce one specific commodity. That way it kind of encourages you to logistically go from places to places and create real trade lines. So if, for instance, there is a quartz quarry on a moon like Selin, for instance, that's where you get quartz from. So that people leaving Selin are probably hauling quartz, and so you can kind of target these trade lines, and these trade lines will start to develop. Now, because you can get multiple things from multiple outposts, you're really not sure what somebody's hauling. But if you are like, oh, okay, you see a ship going to Quantum and they're leaving Selin, there's a good chance they have quartz on their ship, and you can be like, nah, I don't want quartz, and you won't try to interdict the ship. Okay, so I feel like making outposts more specific, creating trade lines, creating specific location designs based on what they're producing is kind of the next step. So it kind of says here, create the outpost based on the planet's needs. So what these locations produce will be specific to each planet. Okay, so each of these planets are going to need food, so that's kind of a no-brainer. But not every planet is going to need the same amount of gold, platinum, astatine, iron, scrap, aluminum, diamond, liquor, and helium. Maybe Houston needs more aluminum. Maybe Houston needs more iron. They make guns and ship weapons. So, and maybe ArchCorp needs more diamond and silver and gold because they make quantum drives and circuit boards. Maybe New Babbage needs more gold and silver because they make technology has circuit boards, and so on. Maybe ArchCorp needs more hydrogen because they have floating platforms that might need fuel. I don't know. So kind of create a system of what each planet needs and a quantity of what each planet needs. So basically that next point is create demand based on the planet's population. So on top of creating what the planet needs, and outposts based on that, the second step is to create demand based on the population, based on what these planets are producing. So again, ArchCorp has a way bigger population than every other planet, so they're gonna need the most things, and that's not really reflected in the game right now. Right now in the game, ArchCorp buys just like every other main landing zone, but in reality, ArchCorp would need 97% of everything that the players are making. So ArchCorp essentially would, you know, be the lion's share of the economy in Stanton. So next step is to create prices based on the demand for each planet. So basically, because ArchCorp is so big and they need so much stuff, they probably won't pay you a lot of money for the stuff that you bring them. Okay? But they'll need a lot of it. They will need more than anybody else. So basically, New Babbage would ask, you know, for 100,000 SCUs of food a week, and the players would need to provide that. But then after they have, but if the players meet that, you know, New Babbage will say, we don't need any more food, so we'll pay you less. But ArchCorp, let's say they need 3 million SCUs of food a week. Just throwing out random numbers there. The player base would be cargo hauling food to ArchCorp more than any other place, because even though they pay less, if you have a cargo ship that can hold more, you could make more money going there. Like, and in my opinion, that changes ship's utility. Okay, because if you have a ship that can now haul more cargo, you can make a better margin selling to a place like ArchCorp based on your trade route. So if you're running a C2, for instance, that has like 600 SCU of food, even though you're getting paid less per unit of food, you can sell so much units of food that you would make more than if you're in a freelancer selling units of food to New Babbage. Okay, so that's an economy. That's how you can take what this ship can do and maximize it for your profits, for your needs and stuff. And then the same thing with the planets, create resources for the outposts. Okay, so essentially, you know, food farm, quantanium, medical supplies, plastics, liquid hydrogen. These are things that the outposts are going to need. So even though you're trading between the outposts and the planets to give the planets resources, you'll also need to go between the outposts to provide resources for the outposts so they could continue producing to provide resources to the planets. So essentially you're building a system where the outposts need resources and the planets need resources, and the planets get their resources from the outposts and the outposts get their resources from each other. So you're creating a system, you're creating a cycle, and then create demand based on the outpost size. So a massive quarry would need more than, you know, a small helium lab. Okay, and then create prices based on the outpost demand. And in this system, the AI won't matter. They won't matter at all, because they're providing resources to the planets and the outposts for completely different things. The AI is not going to be responsible for the food or the plastics or silver, because the players are 100% responsible in this situation to provide for the planets and the outposts. In this case, you would see, you know, AI algorithm. Okay, so in this case, you would see AI moving resources between the planets, but there would be different resources. So you wouldn't see an AI ship that has food on it, or you wouldn't see an AI ship that has quantanium on it. Those will only be players. So in this system, if you're a pirate, you also know what to look for. Basically, if you're looking to pirate quantanium or iron or scrap, you're not going to attack an NPC ship, but maybe an NPC ship has something else valuable on it. Maybe an NPC ship has some other resource like AV equipment. Move AV equipment to NPC ships. AV equipment is very lucrative. So essentially, what you, as a player pirate, if you wanted to make money, pirating AV equipment, you would have to target NPC ships. And so, in my opinion, that gives the players who want to be pirates an ability to make the choice between player ships and NPC ships. That gives value to choosing to pirate a player over choosing to pirate an NPC, because in some situations, maybe Quanta says that AV equipment is very valuable, so you pivot from pirating players to pirating NPCs because all of a sudden AV equipment is more valuable. But then maybe the players drop the ball and silver goes up, so then you pivot from pirating NPCs to go back to pirating players. So in my opinion, splitting the system like that gives you more to do. It kind of changes the game. Okay, and essentially, outposts, assets is, a quarry might be in a canyon or a cliff. A farm might be, on the green belt of Microtech, Savannah of Hurston. A lab might be anywhere. Same thing, junkyard and distillery. These locations would be kind of similar to how they are now, but you would kind of design them around trade routes. So basically, if you were a logistical player, you would kind of know what to look for. Right now, most people playing the game who are starting for the first time, they would have no idea where to look to find a distillery, or they would have no idea where to look to find a quarry, or they would have no idea where to look to find like a farm. But if you made it logical, like, okay, here's a jump point in the green belt of Hurston. Oh, that's 100% a farm because it's in the green belt of Hurston. Place these locations in logical places around the system, so players don't have to take out their phone and search where is this distillery or where is this junkyard, because right now they're just kind of in random places. So if you go to Savannah first, then you're probably going to find a distillery or a farm. And if you go to a moon with if you go to essentially a moon with a thick atmosphere, you'll probably find a hydrogen lab. If you go to a sandy moon, you're probably going to find, I don't know, plastics or, medical supplies. Kind of put each location in a place that players can use to create a trade route. So this moon on Microtech might produce something that Hurston needs. So you're not just kind of going from a Microtech moon to Microtech, because that's kind of boring. Make it a little bit more dynamic than that. So, those are just kind of my initial ideas around making the economy more important, making the economy more dynamic, kind of filling out that role in the game where the economy right now it doesn't exist. And as an industrial player, it's it's kind of sad and disappointing. But I feel like if CIG split what the players and the NPCs are responsible for, and make the players 100% responsible for certain resources, and make the NPCs 100% responsible for certain resources, it would give more value to what the players do, instead of divvying it up between the players and the NPCs and giving the NPCs so much responsibility. It's not saying that Quanta won't be doing anything. Quanta will be doing things. Quanta will be providing most of the resources for these planets. But the resources that the players provide, they're 100% responsible for. There are no NPCs that will trade scrap. And I feel like by doing it that way, you give more responsibility to the players. So you're probably asking, well, okay, in that situation, how is that realistic? Well, you kind of make it the trade through contracts and through trade deals, essentially. So when you're becoming a trader, it's not just like, oh, I have a trade ship, I'm going to go out and do this. You would be doing that through an organization, and this organization would be an NPC organization that essentially only works with players. So right now you don't get a mission, you just go to a location and then you do this. But I believe in the future trading would be more mission based, and by creating a more mission based trading system, you can get reputation with these trading factions, because in my opinion, I feel like reputation is going to be the driving force of the game. But basically, if you're just trading on your own, you're not progressing any reputation. So they would have to make it so that even though you're trading and using your own money, you're essentially an independent contractor for a firm, for a specific trading firm, and they would get you through the door to be able to trade with bigger companies. So essentially, because ArchCorp has a lot of resource requirements, they may contract independent contractors to supply food to ArchCorp, for instance. So you essentially be putting up your own money, but they're your connection to ArchCorp. This kind of middleman type situation where they would hire you and say, okay, right now ArchCorp needs 1,000 SCUs of food. I need a contractor that can go do that. Do you take that contract or not? So basically a system like that where, okay, ArchCorp needs 1,000 SCUs of food, they've already bought it, all you have to do is ship it. That would be another contract. So you would be able to do both. You would be able to use your own money to trade, but essentially the organization would basically give you an idea of what these places would need. Or you could just go to the trade development and see how much these locations need, but your connection to be able to do that would be through this organization that you can have a reputation with. And then maybe if you have a better reputation with them, they might give you a tip. Hey, I mean, I don't know how legal that is to get trading tips, insider tips about the price of what something is going to be. But who knows, maybe they're like Redwind, maybe they're secretly doing under the table stuff. And I feel like there aren't a whole lot of illegal trading missions out there, so maybe you get a tip from your connection that the prices are going to be like this because you have a good reputation with them, but technically that's illegal. So they could make it really interesting if they split up what the players do with what the NPCs do. I feel like they can make it a lot more dynamic. They can make the economy matter more. And yeah, let me know what you guys think. I just thought I'd make this video real quick, even though yeah, this is like a 30-minute video at this point. But yeah, if you want to see more videos like this, hit subscribe, hit like, and I'll see you guys next time. Salute.